Hello to everybody who is joining us today. My name is Susie Fitts. I'm from DotDigital. You'll see our other panelists below. I will give them a moment to introduce themselves in a few minutes. But for now, I'm going to let people join in, give them to like 2:05-ish to join while we do our housekeeping. But once again, I'm Susie Fitts. Welcome to our Dot Live with DotDigital, eWay Corp, and Wagento. As you can see, currently based in my room in New York City today, but we are a London-based office, but we're based, honestly, everywhere across the world. I'd like to say thank you to everybody for joining this Dot Live. It's a really topical theme, and I think it's going to get really exciting, and you guys are going to have a lot of takeaways from this. And then we put together a fireside chat and some real-world examples for you, so get ready, get excited. Here's the agenda, just so you guys have it. Mastering Personalization, the Age of Digital Transformation, and then our agenda. So right now we're working on those welcome and intros. Later on we'll have our fireside chat with Aubrey, JP, and Cody. Aubrey will provide us with some examples, and then we'll have a Q&A. This is your reminder that Q&A questions are anonymous. I'm the only one who's going to see them, so there are no silly questions, there are no stupid questions. If you have them, I'm sure somebody else has them. So please ask, and I will make sure the panelists see them. And then also a reminder that the best question, which we will decide after the event, will get a $25 Uber Eats or DoorDash gift card for lunch on us. So make sure you ask those questions. We want to hear them and we want to answer them. And then also a reminder to please fill out the survey questions at the end. This is feedback that will let us know if we're doing a good job or a bad job. But most importantly, we just want to hear your constructive criticism or any information you want to hear in the future. It gives us opportunity to make the best webinars for you guys every month. And with that, welcome to our September Dot Live. I have a fun poll for all of you. What do you find to be the most important part of a personalized experience when you're shopping or browsing online? Product recommendations, tailored content, personalized offers, user-friendly website layout, or seamless cross-channel experiences? I know there's a million more things we could put on here, but I just want to hear what you guys are interested in. And just to make sure you're awake. So I'm sending it out. Send out your votes. I think my answer would be user-friendly website layout. I stand by that. Sometimes I just leave a website if the website sucks. All right, I'll give you one more second because people are still voting. 3, 2, and 1. End poll. All right, so the results were kind of evenly spread, but user-friendly website layout won by 20%. So 4 of you voted for that. Let's move on to our introductions. JP, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey, thank you, Susie. My name is JP Singh, and I'm the CEO and President of Wagento Commerce in eWay Corp, and happy to be here. Thank you.
Happy to have you. Cody, we'll give you a chance to introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, glad to be here. Thanks for the invite, Susie. Head of Solutions at Wagento, based in Nashville. So I'm talking to merchants all day about solutions and digital experiences in general.
Fabulous, as you should be. Thank you. Aubrey, you're up.
Yeah, hi, I'm Aubrey Almond. I'm a solutions consultant here at DotDigital, and I help lead our North American solutions consulting team. And I'm based out of North Carolina, so thrilled to be here today.
We got everyone from across the United States right now, so welcome. We're going to hop into our fireside chat, moderated by me, answered by our lovely panelists. So let's just dive right into it. What are some emerging trends in regard to personalization that you've seen among your clients or just in general across any channel? And anyone's welcome to start.
Yeah, I can dive in on that. So I think the biggest trend that I've really seen is sort of post-COVID has been the desire to really achieve consistency of personalization across a variety of different channels. I think that site-side recommendations are great. In email recommendations are fabulous. Making sure that we're putting the right products and experiences in front of people, no matter where they're interacting with us, be that on the site or in SMS or in email, etc. But making sure that, again, we're having that really consistent experience, no matter where we're talking with folks. So if we're recommending a product on the site and people are engaging with that we're doing a really good job of making sure that there's a follow-through action on that, to make sure that we're doing the same thing in email, we're doing the same thing in SMS as what we're doing on site. And kind of complementary with that is, the more focus on a multi-channel approach to like triggered messaging flow. So when we're thinking about, your standard abandoned cart series or browse recovery series or win back series, post-purchase series, etc., incorporating in a variety of channels. So making sure that you're having those conversations with people where they want to be having that conversation with your brand.
Oh, so insightful. I love that. Cody or JP, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think one trend that we're seeing in B2B, and I'll probably talk a lot about B2B today because we see a lot of that at Wagento. But one trend we're seeing is just account-based personalization. So, the old school format was, well, you have a sales rep and they personalize what it is that your organization buys from ours in a personal way because it's a person. But we're seeing more and more of these B2B organizations are saying, well, why don't we at least build them a microsite that's targeted towards that customer? So that's kind of dipping their toes in the water of personalization, but it's still very manual. And then, obviously there's a whole spectrum that they could go down towards more automated personalization, for particular customers. So definitely seeing a trend there.
JP?
Yeah, so we need to divide this thing in two different segments, B2B and B2C. And B2C is like more personal towards a particular user who is going to visit your website or going to receive SMS or going to receive an email from you. In case of B2B, we have to figure out a group of people, bunch of stakeholders, and how do we cater our message to a particular business, particular group of people, particular group of buyers. So and use of technology is increasing. A lot of AI based, it's like hyper personalization is too much. AI, machine language, and all that is being utilized. But it's still a human touch in personalization will actually win the game. My recommendation will always be that, hey, use AI as one of the tools that you can use to speed up things, but keep the human touch on in your any personalization, because that's what personal means. You add AI, then the whole personal thing is gone. Basically, it's just machine is driving your message.
I feel like I've heard people say use it as an extension of your marketing team, not just the end all be all. Yeah. Right. Aubrey, did I interrupt you?
No, not at all. I think one thing I will say is just to kind of echo what Cody and JP are saying. One of the biggest trends I've seen with my B2B customers is actually embracing some more traditional like B2C tactics. And it kind of makes sense when you think about it, because if you're a buyer for a B2B company, that's what you do and that's your job. But, when you're off the clock, you're still buying from Amazon, you're still going and shopping and buying fans from Bonobos, you're getting your sunglasses from Knock Around, et cetera, et cetera. I'm kind of talking about my own personal experience here, but you're experiencing the sort of like traditional B2C workflows and experiences, et cetera. And it's natural that we're starting to see more B2B companies kind of incorporate some of those B2C tactics into what they're doing, because those are the experiences those people are having anyway, right? So you want to take where possible and where appropriate, et cetera, some of those concepts from a more traditional like B2C approach and apply it in B2B when it makes sense, obviously.
Yeah, just one thing I would like to add here. So there is a clear difference, and I think you're right. B2C tactics are being utilized in B2B. There is one thing we got to be careful that when we are when we are talking about a product or service in B2B world, we can clearly see that the button on the website, I'm talking about a website or even email, it says learn more as compared to buy now. So in B2C, so that distinction and buyer's journey should be very, very distinct. Otherwise, it may confuse everybody because B2B buyers are not ready to buy right now.
Yeah.
But they are not the only decision maker. They're probably researching about product or service. So we need to provide them that kind of journey, not just to buy now, buy now, buy now. We can't push them at all.
I think that's so interesting, the language of what you're using or who you're marketing to. I love that we have the B2B, B2C perspective in this chat right now, so that's awesome. Yeah, language is so important. Thank you. And then I want to ask you guys a question. It seems like a question we would ask later, but in case people log off, I want them to have this now. Do you have any tips or resources for how brands can stay up to date on trends? Like, how do you stay up to date, or what do you recommend to your clients?
Yeah,
I can go first.
So,
go ahead.
Oh, please go ahead, Cody. No, go ahead, Cody.
Okay. Well, mine's kind of from the tool to, from the tool backwards. So rather than say like, what needs do I have? What strategies can I employ? One way to go about answering this question of what should I be doing, what's trending right now, is to look at the great platforms and the great technologies in the space and see what services they're offering. What have they included as a part of their product most recently? And that's a pretty good indication of what's trending, right? Because, tools like DotDigital are staying on top of what works in the market. And so if it's worth the investment to add to a product, add features and function to a product, then that says that that company has bet that feature is trending and working. More than just trending, it's actually working. So kind of a backwards approach maybe for some, but see what tools are new to the market and specifically what features are being adopted by the biggest players in the market. And I think you'll have a pretty good idea of what's trending.
Absolutely. Aubrey, if you want to
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll get in trouble with the marketing team if I didn't give a shout out to the great DotDigital blog and the content that's available there. For myself, as a now elder millennial, I tend to look to Reddit often. I'm a bit of a Reddit nerd. I love the email marketing and digital marketing subreddits. I am mostly a lurker there, but it helps me in a couple different ways because it's just sometimes a good place to go and sort of get a trend analysis of like sort of what people are interested in and that sort of thing. But also, I talk to a lot of customers and prospective customers, and I'm sure Cody does as well, as part of my day-to-day job. And so being able to understand and sort of see the things that people are asking questions about or maybe having issues with, or trends that they want to learn more about, et cetera, allows me to be more personalized in my approach to like when I'm speaking with my customers. Other really great resources, there's so much content out there, it's a little bit overwhelming, but I think if you look like vertically or vertical specific, there's some recommendations that I can make that I use day to day. The Moz blog is great. Like SEO, b2bmarketing.net is a really good one, just because B2B marketing, I think, sometimes gets a little bit of a short end of the stick when it comes to like the content that's created for it and things like that. So that's a great resource. Dave Chaffee is another really good resource with both like books. He also has like a Medium website that's very good and worth a subscription. And then I love going to trade shows. I'm going to be at Meet Magento New York next week. I always try to make it out to Adobe Summit and things like that. And like that for me is a really wonderful time to be able to interact both with prospective customers, but also again to kind of like get my finger on the pulse of like what is actually important to the people that I'm speaking with, and to sometimes get a little bit out of the myopic like DotDigital, like this is the things that we really focus on, and get a better sense for sort of the broader issues that some of our customers are facing.
Yeah,
I can attest I'm a sucker for a trade show, but maybe that's the field marketer in me. So I'll give you that. Thank you, Aubrey. All right, JP, what about you?
yeah. I mean, I learn from product vendors basically. So you go online, do some research about the topic, and read some blogs, and listen to some podcasts, and keep yourself up to date. And if you like a particular product, I mean, in my case, again, I'm not trying to say that I love DotDigital, but I do, because I literally asked folks to give me a demo, and I got access to the back end, and simple, and you guys are keeping it up to date, so that's fantastic. There are a lot of newsletters that you can subscribe to on a particular topic, and you can keep yourself up to date. Webinars are great. So there's a lot of things are out there, and read Google's blogs basically, and that will give you some good idea that where industry is going.
No, perfect. Okay, perfect. I love that question. I love getting it out of the way at the beginning, because I feel like you guys are the experts. Where are you guys getting your information, Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty of it all. What are some key elements to consider when you're optimizing for website personalization, and how do these elements contribute to enhancing the overall user experience? Anyone is welcome to take it.
Aubrey, you go first.
I feel like I've like jumped in and tried to answer first the last few times. I'm not going to go unless somebody calls me out. If you've ever done a demonstration with me for DotDigital or any of the products that I've worked on, I always spend the first half of my product demonstration actually talking about data. And to me, data is the key element to any type of personalization that we're talking about, be it website or other channels, etc. The more that you have, the better. So all channels are generating their own sort of stream of data and insights, etc. And being able to centralize that in a singular place and use that to make a decision from a centralized point of truth, right? So at DotDigital, we often talk about being a customer experience data platform. Kind of what that means is that essentially any information that's going to allow us to do a better job of personalizing and making an experience more relevant to a customer, that's data that we want to have coming into the platform and being able to use from an execution standpoint. So the first point is always going to be data for me. The second point is going to be making sure that data is clean. So, the only thing that's scarier than not having a lot of data is having, unclean data. So understanding like what are the sources of data that are coming into whatever platform that you're utilizing. How often is it being updated, and where is it being utilized? And then site-side experiences need to be buttressed with robust channel-specific triggers. I kind of talked about this a little bit in the first one, but making sure that kind of whatever you're doing on the site, in terms of personalization, is being reflected back across all the different channels that you're utilizing to have that ongoing conversation with someone. And the last piece is testing. In my role, I have the opportunity to talk to a lot of prospective customers and get them excited about DotDigital. And we talk a lot about, kind of like, what the potential future could look like. And one of the saddest things that can happen is I'll talk to somebody, a year or two down the road, and they've implemented, a strategy or something like that, and they've just kind of like set it and forget it. Marketing and digital marketing especially really is not a set it and forget it approach. Like there needs to be consistent testing that's going on. We need to be striving to try out different subject lines, different calls to action, different timelines, different like types of flows, etc. So making sure that you're consistently testing is a big piece of it. And the last thing I'll say is just like be transparent with your customer base around the data that's being collected and how it's going to be utilized. A lot of times I hear from my marketers like, oh, look, we're worried about like doing an SMS approach or personalizing too much. We don't want to come across as like creepy. Well, it's not going to be creepy. You're being upfront with people about how the data is being utilized. And if you're using that information to deliver a better overall experience, your customers are going to appreciate that. So make sure you've got great data coming in, make sure you're testing the heck out of it, and make sure you're being really transparent with people about like what that data is being used for. Those would be the big three for me.
We learned it in elementary school. Honesty is the best policy, so I do love transparency. All right, you guys can go. I'm not the expert here. Cody and JP, you're up.
Cody, go.
Well, okay. I see the need when we think about what should I do? What are the key elements to optimize website personalization? I think about the realm of what's possible and then the realm of what's realistic for a business to manage. So a lot of times in these kinds of conversations, we talk about, the sky's the limit and how personalized the experience can be and how many personas you build out and, how many flows you develop that are omnichannel. There's so much you could do. And I've seen enough marketing teams just barely dip their toe in the water of some new tool that they've purchased, that my focus is oftentimes on not just what can you do, but what can you actually do? Like, what do you have the time to do and the ability and the bandwidth to set up? So I think for me that means that for a lot of marketing teams, the user-friendly nature of the tool is almost as important as the features of the tool, and how much can be kind of set up quickly inside of the personalization tool, whatever it is that it's doing for your customer experience. Can you set it up quickly? Does it have some kind of preloaded features or templates or some of those things that can get you fairly far down the road, so that you can actually make good use of the personalization strategies. So I think that's where planning comes into play, as a key element in optimizing a website, is planning realistically around what your team's bandwidth can allow for, and what the tool kind of optimizes for you.
No, I absolutely agree with that. JP, did you want to add anything to what Cody said?
Yeah, data should be there, and we need to identify who our audiences are. That's the most important. Are we going to be talking to B2C or B2B or maybe a mix, basically? So, like I said previously, that we need to figure out that are we going to do optimization page by page, product by product, or we are going to optimize the user's journey, because they're two different set of buyers basically, and we don't want to confuse them. That's the most important part, because what I'm seeing is basically that sometimes some B2B folks, they start rushing into B2C kind of websites, and that won't work. That won't work at all, because you have to offer case studies, you have to offer bunch of other information and maybe free consultation or something for a B2B user or visitor to go back and talk to his or her team and come back to you. It's a longer process. So there are differences in both. So we just need to cater to your audiences and optimize your website based on who your audiences are.
Yeah.
Perhaps I think oh, Aubrey, go for it.
There's just like one thing I wanted to tack on and agree with, like with Cody. Like, I'm a big fan of the TV show Top Chef, and I use this analogy a lot of times when I'm talking to like B2B marketers. I've watched like 20 seasons of Top Chef now, and like one of the most consistent things that you end up seeing that goes wrong in Top Chef is, a chef will come in with this big idea, and he'll have like 20 different ingredients in a dish and build this beautiful but like really overly complex thing. And they always end up getting dinged on it because, the elements of it are kind of half baked and it doesn't really come off the way they want it to, et cetera. And a lot of times, like I would say on more seasons of Top Chef than not, you see the chefs that are executing on relatively simplistic dishes in a really beautiful and cohesive way. And they're doing simple things beautifully and well. And I realize that this is kind of a beleaguered metaphor, but it's similar within B2B marketing, especially if you have a smaller team. Don't focus on trying to do 10 or 15 different strategies in kind of a halfway. Do the 3 or 4 things that are really, maybe they're low-hanging fruit, but if you're doing them really well and you're executing on them really well, that's going to drive much more engagement and much more positive ROI than trying to do 15 or 20 different things.
Absolutely.
Kind of halfway. Yeah.
And it needs to be kind of, virtually guided journey for B2B buyers. Because in case of B2C buyer, it could be, if somebody is trying to buy a jewelry, for example. So that needs to be emotional. There should be emotional content, entertaining content. In case of B2B, that's not going to work. It has to be rational, educational, so that people can, understand who you are, what you do, and provide some case studies and all. Like I said in past, just give that information so that they can take it and go back and come back with a decision to set up a meeting or something like that.
I think this conversation perfectly moves us into our next question, about the content when it comes to these multi-channel strategies, not getting too crazy, not getting too chaotic. Outside of what you guys just said, do you have any other pieces of advice you'd give when creating omni-channel content? I'll give it to JP. You want to start us?
Yeah, again, and I always speak to our own marketing team that don't lose your brand coherence, because you can create content on one topic and stick to it. So don't duplicate it, but every channel will require, either smaller content, or some channel will require some content with some image, or some, but the cohesiveness of the content should be there. Mm-hmm. So here you're talking about, a blue mango, and stick to blue mango or yellow mango throughout the journey, rather than, you start talking about, green mangoes. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's a good example, but the cohesiveness of the content should be there. Otherwise, people will get very confused. I mean, we're talking about institutional buyers, basically, B2B buyers. They will lose it immediately.
No, I think of a presentation that our marketing strategist put on a couple months ago, where she showed an example of the consistency of a brand that reached out to her, and it was this one very specific travel bag that she got an Instagram ad for, but it was the same travel bag that she got a text for and a Facebook message for, or something like that. And she showed us all of the examples, and it was all consistent, not this bag and then all of a sudden a makeup product or something like that. So it's important. And then she bought the bag, so it worked. Yeah, Aubrey, do you want to add anything to that, or Cody?
I mean, for me, I'm not a content expert, and so I don't want to pretend to be something that I'm not. I will say that a lot of times in the conversations that I'm having with my marketers, it really does come back to the context of when you're having the conversation with someone and where in the buying journey you're having that conversation with them. I think that we all understand the differences between site content and email content and SMS content. But taking advantage of sort of if you know where they're at a little bit more in the journey, that's going to allow you to be a little bit more contextual in the type of information that you're sharing with them, and to not be afraid of utilizing different channels to further kind of the overall point that you're trying to. SMS is a great example. Within the B2B world, SMS has not necessarily had traditionally the take rate that you see for email or site personalization, etc. But there are very narrow uses for SMS where it can derive a ton of value if you understand the context of when you're trying to utilize it, as opposed to hitting somebody with an email message, etc. When they're already buried with a ton of email from everyone as well as from your competitors. So I would just say a lot of times it comes back to that question of sort of just being aware of where you are contextually in that journey with the end recipient.
Absolutely. Cody, did you want to add anything to that? Yeah.
I was just going to say that this is where the data informs the great content creators, because without some of these tools like DotDigital in place, you can be the best content creator. You can create a really compelling message about how this product is transformational and all of that, but if it comes at an inappropriate time in the buyer's journey, it's not nearly as powerful. Or if you're throwing discounts out when someone doesn't know what the product is yet, it's just kind of falls on deaf ears. So I think this is again where the tools and the data that's possible to gather today can really empower a marketing team to speak a more personalized message.
I agree. I think that also leads us into another really good question of do you have any tools and technologies you recommend for implementing any of these strategies that we've just talked about? Obviously beyond DotDigital.
I was gonna say like what, like beyond DotDigital. I'm a big fan of site-side optimization testing platforms. So you think about like Optimizely, like it's kind of one that traditionally comes to mind. But there's a bunch out there that do that. Platforms that allow you to kind of test in an ongoing fashion and to surface different things based on essentially like what you're trying to drive to. But that I think for me, like the big thing is like making sure that whatever tool you're utilizing for like the marketing automation side of it, even if it's not DotDigital, you're testing essentially. Like you are trying to drive towards iterative, provable improvements in your strategy. I come back to like something I said a couple minutes ago, but like there is no set it and forget it in our space. We need to consistently be adapting what we're doing to ensure that we're delivering that really wonderful and consistent customer experience.
Perfect. Yeah, Cody or JP, did you want to add anything to what Aubrey said?
You go.
Yeah, I think again, because we talk with so many B2B merchants, a lot of them are starting somewhere. They have to start somewhere on this journey towards creating a personalized experience. And so they start with set it and forget it. And then, ideally 2 weeks later, they move on beyond set and forget and start to build out, more campaigns, analyze the results, iterate on what they're seeing. And then kind of the deepest end of the pool is custom dashboards that show exactly, what they need to see to kind of make better decisions on their ad strategy and better decisions on, content all across the board and personalization on the site and email and SMS. So I think at the basic level, you want tools that show good data. So that you can make good decisions. And then again, the deepest end of the pool, you want probably custom dashboards that show, the levers that tend to work best historically for your business in kind of the cleanest way possible so that you can make decisions quickly and with kind of the level of data that you need.
That was a great answer. Thank you, Cody. JP, is there any more you'd want to add?
Yeah, I think one of the most important tool we always miss is the whiteboard. Just go to the whiteboard, create a strategy. Just be very, very clear, because DotDigital is a great tool. Clayvo is there, Optimizely is there, but tools are only going to help if we have everything clear here. Mm-hmm. At where we want to go, how we want to lead our website visitors or customers through our website or through the journey of buying. So we need to decide that and create a good strategy and take that strategy and execute by using a tool like DotDigital, Clayvo, or Optimizely. There are great tools out there. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Bring it back to the whiteboard, bring it back to the basics. That's important.
Basics are most important. You can't do anything without basics. I have seen in my life a lot of developers, even, I have a development background. People who don't know basics, they can learn any programming language, they'll fail, guaranteed.
You're just going to get lost in all of it. I think that's...
Yeah. The moment basic requirement changes, they lose it. So
yeah. Keep it simple. I like it. Cody, you were mentioning data. So into the next question, I wanted to ask, what data are you looking at to keep making experiences unique and personalized to each customer? How is this best utilized in supporting the personalized experience? I know we've touched on it a bit. If there's any more you want to add.
Yeah, I think seeing customers across the funnel where they've come from to land on your site, what they're doing on your site, and then what they're doing kind of deeper in the checkout realm. I think that seeing the data on all those touch points across the customer journey, across the funnel, I think is really helpful and can really uncover opportunities for businesses that are not obvious and that you can't just sit around a table and come up with. We'll probably get into some more stories later, but one that I love on this front is I was chatting with a B2B business again. They were a pipe distributor. So you think about like plumbing companies are their clients, and dealers and folks that are dealing with plumbing situations. And they looked at their data and they were looking at, who's landing on our site and what are they looking for, what are they buying. And they saw a really large trend. This was a couple of years ago. They saw a really large trend of people buying like 2 little elbows and a pipe. And they were like, what plumbing situation does this solve for? And as they looked into the data, they realized, no, people are buying industrial piping to make towel racks in their homes.
Oh.
So people have found us for a reason that we never, we all know that look, but this plumbing distributor was not on their radar. But because they had the data, because they took a close look at the data, they then had plans to spin up microsites, for all sorts of kind of alternate use cases of the piping that they sell. So they were really able to maximize on a trend because they had the data.
I love that. The DIYers took over a little bit over the plumbers, and that's just like you're increasing your customer base. That's so very cool. I love that. Great story. JP or Aubrey, did you want to add anything to that?
There you go.
I have nothing to add to that other than to say that we had that towel rack in my last house.
Perfect. JP, anything or you're...
Yeah, I mean, what Cody said is perfectly, is perfect actually, to tell you honestly. We need to have data, we need to analyze data, and based on that, we need to create unique experience for B2B or B2C both, basically.
Yeah.
And the way we should utilize the data so that customers don't feel like, invaded. So that kind of privacy should be respected, and we should use data which is basically kind of could be public information, basically, or the customer should not mind, and we should utilize modern tools, new technologies that will do some kind of predictive analytics, and we can use AI for customer behavior analysis and all, and do our marketing based on that. Their tools will help in doing A/B testings based on different segments and all that. So I would say that use advanced data utilization tools and techniques. Check behavior of your users and make sure that you create your data model based on what data you have captured. That's all. Privacy is the biggest thing basically, and this is going to become a big problem moving forward because there are a lot of people, they don't want to be tracked at all.
Yeah, no, I think that leads us into one of the questions. I think I'm gonna ask one more question before we get into like Aubrey's examples, but so we have enough time for Q&A. But I think the privacy of it all is really important, and people don't want to be like excessively feel like there's invasive tactics maybe being put onto them. So do you guys have any examples of best practices for personalizing the customer experience in a way that strengthens brand loyalty, customer loyalty, without relying too invasively on excessive targeted marketing tactics? Long question, but good question.
Yeah, so touching upon what Cody said, that we need to check and user's journey on the website and create content related to that, so that they can relate to what they have seen, what they visited, what they read on your website, connect with them in that way. I think that will automatically become very personal for that particular website visitor or email reader.
Absolutely. Cody or Aubrey, you're up too.
I think the web personalization is the least invasive, feels the least invasive to a buyer or to a consumer. And I think sometimes it's the last space to be personalized, right? An email, people know, oh, well, I can drop in a token that is the customer's name. And, there's some targeting. It's kind of old news that you can personalize emails. And SMS, same thing. But web, for whatever reason, I think there's more set and forget on the web personalization, and just less understanding among, merchants around how personalized that web experience can be. And it doesn't feel very invasive. It just feels like, hey, I landed on a site that speaks my language. Like, this is what I want to see on this site.
It's nice. It's a nice feeling. I like that. Aubrey, you want to add anything to that before we get into your examples?
Yeah, I think that at DotDigital we work with all different types and sizes of customers, and so like sometimes you would think that the larger the organization that you're working with, like the more defined strategy that they might have around personalization, the more defined sort of thought process they would have around like, well, what constitutes like positive ROI and things like that. But one of the first questions I always ask my customers when we're talking about sort of like how to best utilize data and or analytics to drive these experiences, like, okay, what's the KPI that really matters to you? And you would be surprised how often that I'll be on a call with 5 people and I'll get 5 different responses around like, what is the primary KPI? So sometimes it's just a question of, as an organization, like, what is the core thing that we're looking to achieve with this flow of messaging or with this personalization tactic or with this like strategy, et cetera? Like, is it generating more downloads on a white paper? Is it actually just selling stuff? Is it getting people to book in calls and times with sales representatives, et cetera? Being defined about like what you're actually trying to like drive towards, so that you can then go and test that and optimize towards that is sort of like step one. And I'm always trying to get people to help me better understand that. So that would be like the big one for me. It's just like making sure that you're as an organization aligned on what you're actually trying to drive towards before taking that sort of first step towards a tactic or a strategy.
Absolutely agree. Okay, well, for the next small section before the Q&A, Aubrey's going to show us some awesome real-world examples. And JP or Cody, was there anything you wanted to add before we dive into that, or are we all set?
I think I'm good.
Let's dive in.
Let's go on in. Aubrey, you're up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we were thinking about like sort of like what we we've done a lot of the theory over the last, call it like, 45 minutes. I did want to give a shout out to like some different customers that we've worked with here at DotDigital that have done a really great job of taking the theory and turning it into positive outcomes. The first one that I want to talk about was ProTech. So this is a B2B and B2C customer that we work with out of Florida. And they work with their customers for specialty roofing, construction, plumbing supplies, like that type of thing. And they had a very traditional stack that they were utilizing when they came to DotDigital. So they were using Adobe Commerce. They had an ERP system in the back end. And then they had a variety of different sort of like marketing automation and personalization efforts that were set up with their previous provider. The core thing that was hampering them was essentially the unification of that information. So the MarTech stack was talking sort of, haphazardly to the front end. The ERP was talking to the front end, but it wasn't really talking to the MarTech. And MarTech wasn't sending anything back to either of the other systems. So everybody was kind of like working within these silos in terms of trying to figure out like, okay, like, what is being effective? Are we actually driving through like the sales that we need and things like that? And what we were able to do with ProTech was essentially integrate with all the different systems that they were utilizing, serve as a hub for that information so that all of the data, regardless of whether or not and where it was being generated, was coming into DotDigital. So we actually had line of sight on not just what was happening with the e-commerce side of the house, because that usually, especially with our B2B businesses, represents like such a small fraction of the overall revenue that's being generated. The rest of it's coming in directly from the sales team, or it's coming in directly from phone orders and things like that. And then once we had all that information, we were able to do a better job of executing on various personalization strategies, as well as actually getting more of a full life cycle approach to marketing setup. So what they ended up being able to focus in and target in, I mean, it really sounds like sort of your core thing. So it kind of goes back to that comment I was making a little bit about like sort of like a Top Chef, right? Like do the little things and do the simple dishes really well. And so they were able to improve upon their welcome series. They were able to understand sort of like the different channels that people wanted to have conversations with them on. If somebody was interested in SMS, that was an offering that they were able to incorporate into their welcome series. They were able to actually execute across abandoned browse and abandoned cart, which they were already doing, but also to do it in a more intelligent way. So if you think about like B2B customers, a lot of times what we'll see with B2B customers is they'll use the e-commerce site and the cart as sort of like an order builder. So it's not uncommon to see somebody like put like 2 or 3 things in a cart, and then it sits for a couple of days, and then they'll put 2 or 3 more things in a cart, and then it sits a couple of days, and they delete something from the cart. Like they're working collaboratively like with a team to build out that cart. And so with our integration into Magento, we were able to understand like, oh, okay, cool. We can look and see when the cart not only was abandoned, but also when was the last time it was touched, when was the last time it was adjusted, and we saw things being added, removed from it, et cetera, and adapt the call to action to be more targeted. So for instance, if you see that the cart's being adjusted, twice in the last like 48 hours, the follow-up there is sure, like you want to talk about the products that are contained within the cart and invite people to come back to the site and make a purchase. But the headline call to action is actually, are you having trouble? Like, we would love to help you. Here's your sales representative, and here's the person that you can call that will help like walk you through like the ins and outs of like the items that you have contained within your cart, et cetera. And then just doing little things well, like birthday and anniversary programs, thanking people for being loyal purchasers of their products. Telling them happy birthday. These are again simple things, but because we're able to pull so much first-party data from our partner platforms, like Magento, for instance, we're bringing over that entire corpus of information that sits on the customer record, as well as all the B2B data. It just allowed them to execute in a much more effective manner. Another one that I like to give a call out to, and this one's a little bit different, is a small company called Tracked Optics. So these is a couple guys who were previously with Nikon. So they were working with Nikon specifically around like lensing. So if you think about like a camera lens or like the lens that might be used in like binoculars or things like that, they ended up taking the leap, right? Going into entrepreneurship. They left Nikon, they started Tracked Optics. It's still just really the two of them and some back office staff, et cetera. And so what they were looking for was essentially a platform that was going to allow them to execute on some more advanced strategies, but that was still going to be really easy to use. And then they wanted to start dipping their toe into the SMS and MMS waters. What we were able to do with Tracked was to help them get set up on an SMS strategy that utilized some of the native triggers that are available in Adobe Commerce for things like order confirmations, shipment notifications, et cetera. These triggers already sit within Adobe Commerce, and you can use them to get people to opt into SMS. And SMS is a little bit different than email, right? With the email opt-in, you've got transactional and you've got marketing based. With SMS, it's just kind of one opt-in. So once you have somebody who's opted in for shipping notifications or an order confirmation, et cetera, you're then able to slowly start marketing to them around other concepts and doing so on the SMS and MMS channel. They use SMS and MMS really sparingly. So they've got a pretty good sized email list that they're consistently using to go out and have conversations with people on, and they're deriving good ROI from that. But when they do use SMS and MMS, they've now got their folks well conditioned to know that, okay, like this is something big, this is something that's going to offer like a real return on value. They're actually driving 17x return on investment just from the SMS and MMS channel. So just a couple of different examples. I wanted to do one that was from the B2B side of the world, as well as like on the more traditional like B2C. But even with tracked, it's still considered purchase. I mean, these are $2,000 scopes and things like that. Like it's not something that anybody's going to buy. Like it's just a one-off. To give examples of sort of like different concepts around basic personalization as well as like more advanced personalization on the SMS and NMS channel. There are case studies available for both of those, as you would expect, on the DotDigital website. We can send through some links on that as well. But yeah,
I'll make sure to send the follow-up to the case studies in our follow-up email. Cody or JP, did you want to add anything, or do you want to move into our Q&A? Because those were awesome examples.
Yeah, let's go Q&A so we have enough time.
Q&A, yeah.
Sweet. Well, I'll go in order of how we received them. The first one is a question that I think I know the answer to. Will any of you be at Digital Summit Atlanta this week? Yes or no? I know we're not, Aubrey.
No.
No. That's what I thought. I was hoping someone might, but if you're there, that's okay. We're not going to be there. Follow up. JP, this was a question for you. You were talking about some tools, specifically Optimizely and DotDigital. They just didn't hear what the third one was. I think it was Klevu, but I wanted to check.
Klevu, yes. Klevu.
Klevu.
Correct.
Perfect. We got another question. Do any of you have a good resource for writing a good privacy explanation or any tips? I know I don't, but I don't know if you guys do.
Well, I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on TV. Tips for writing a good privacy example. So I would say there are a couple like different things I'd always recommend is go and look and see what your competitors are doing. That's usually like a good first step. And then I'm kind of like everybody else. I've incorporated ChatGPT into my daily workflow. So if I'm not 100% sure on how to do something, or if I need a generalized example of how to attack a problem or something like that, I'm always looking to OpenAI to help me with sort of the first step in that type of process. But yeah, that would be how I would attack that. Cody or JP,
yeah. So we have written a bunch of privacy policies basically, and most of the time customers provide it, and I would highly recommend to check with your attorney, because state by state these things, privacy policies, and they change, because if you're in California it will be a different privacy policy, and if you're in Texas could be completely different as compared to if you're in DC. So yes, you can look at competitors' website, you can look at some other websites, and get the general content, but please get it checked by your local attorney. That's what I would recommend.
I think we are, oh my goodness. Never mind. I was going to say something, but I lost all my words. Cody, did you want to add anything to that?
No. Agreed.
No, perfect. We have one other question that just came in. So we talked a lot about customizing websites. Could you give any more specific examples of how DotDigital could be used for that, rather than like what we've talked about already, specifically DotDigital? Aubrey?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of you may or may not know, we actually acquired a personalization outfit last year called Fresh Relevance. And the reason that we went out and acquired Fresh was essentially we've always done a very good job of being able to personalize across the channels that we natively work within. So if you think about email, SMS, MMS, WhatsApp, in-app messaging, push notifications, etc. But we did have a little bit of a blind spot when it came to being able to personalize the site-side experience for customers that we didn't necessarily know who they were yet, right? So like anonymous people that were visiting the website, people that were visiting for the first time. And so what Fresh has really allowed us to do is to kind of bridge that gap between doing a really excellent job of being able to personalize to known users across the own channels, and now also being able to offer a similar experience on the site for folks that we don't necessarily have as good of an idea on who they are. they offer a wide variety of different ancillary capabilities as well around being able to do a better job of personalizing to the people that you do know who they are. But that was like the real big piece for me. So what Fresh is allowing us to do now is to really take some of the same concepts we've been talking about, or that I've been talking about, like the channel optimization, and apply those to the website as well.
Awesome. Those were all of our questions. We've got 2 minutes left. I think we can give you guys those 2 minutes back to your day. I really want to thank JP and Cody for coming from Wagento and eWay Corp and giving us their awesome insights. Aubrey, as always, we love having you in our Dot Lives. And I will be sending a follow-up email to all of you. I will also ask one more time, if you please fill out a follow-up survey. That will just help us every month when we do these Dot Lives, make them even better. But yeah, thank you guys so much and have a really good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.